Hi, Meg here from I Teach Stamping, and welcome to the Friday Flip. So the Friday Flip is where we take one project idea and we flip it into something completely different. So let's go ahead and start with our inspiration card. I love this card, like absolutely love this card. So I don't want to change a lot of it, but I want to be able to recapture the things that I love about it and use it again on another project. So the first thing that I did was to take care of my scallop edge and to change the orientation of the card. So let me show you what I mean. So rather than have it open and be a wide card that opens at the bottom, I made a narrow card that opens at the bottom, and I used the Scallop Edgelit to go ahead and take care of cutting off this piece of the same cardstock. So this started as Crumb Cake, 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I scored it at 5 1/2, and then I did the die cutting. Then the next thing we're going to do is with a piece of, or actually 2 pieces of cardstock. They both started out as squares that were 3 1/2 by 4 1/2, and I went to Pear Pizzazz with Melon Mambo for this. So then once I had the squares, I cut them on a diagonal. So you'll be able to make 2 projects once you have this cut. Then we're going to do our dry embossing. So when I go to put it in the embossing folder, and I'm going to keep the same Hexagon embossing folder that I did on my inspiration card, I do want it to be nice and lined up exactly how it's going to be on my card. So rather than running each color through first and cutting it, doing it this way, that way I don't have any imperfections on that, and this would have helped if my big shot had been turned the right way. And believe it or not, it's actually not a Monday that I'm making this video. It just kind of feels like it all of a sudden. All right, so we have that. And so when I open this up, it's going to open backwards now that I flipped it. See how that texture moves from one color to the other without any interruptions in it. All right, so that's exactly what I wanted there. And now we're ready to do our stamping. So I'm going to move this guy out of the way and bring in the grid paper. Okay, so we're going to do our stamping first. I'm going to use one stamp set for this entire project. It's going to be the Sheltering Tree stamp set. We're going to start with some soft suede ink, and I'm going to stamp onto a piece of white cardstock that is going to be 2 3/4 by 3 1/2. And the tree is going to be bigger than the cardstock. Bring my trunk down, so the trunk will fit just fine. But then when we go to put the leaves on, you'll see what I mean. And you notice I've got a foam mat underneath because I'm using a photopolymer stamp. I don't need any more of the soft suede ink, so we're going to go ahead and get that out of the way. The next one we're going to bring in is Pear Pizzazz. We're going to do the leaves. Now you'll see where it's going to overflow. And that's just fine. That good and stamped. And we are done with Pear Pizzazz. We're ready to bring in some Melon Mambo. I love hot pinks. This is one of my favorite colors. So this little guy, just a little flower thing, is in the same stamp set. You just want to make sure to turn it, rotate it as you're stamping so that you don't see that same pattern over and over again. We want it to look random. And you can either turn your stamp or turn your cardstock or do both. All right, so once we have that, then we're ready to move on to our sentiment. So for my sentiment, this is just a 1/2 inch strip of Crumb Cake cardstock. I used that on the inspiration card, and I wanted to bring it right back in again. So I cut this to be extra long. You'll see why in a bit. I'm going to stamp that Thankful for You. And of course you can have it say whatever you want. But now that we have that, we are all done with our stamping. So I can close up my ink pads and not get stray ink anywhere I don't want it. And now, believe it or not, we are ready to do the assembly of our cards. So I'm going to let this sit over to the side and get dry and happy. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a 1 inch strip of white cardstock. So it's going to be 1 inch by 4 1/4 inches. And what I'm going to do, I've got a very thin line of adhesive at the top there. I'm going to line it up on the bottom piece of my card. So not on that scallop piece, on the bottom, the base of that card. Once I have it good and lined up there, then I can just press this down. And now I know that when I close it, it's going to fold and close perfectly. So we've got that. Then the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and bring in these pieces here. We're going to use some fast fuse adhesive. And I'm using a little bit more adhesive than you would normally need to, only because I need to make sure to get my cardstock, because I've got the two different pieces. I want to make sure the adhesive hits on both pieces. Line up that hexagon pattern as I'm doing this, so it's all nice and straight. And there we go. All right, now I'm going to grab a banner punch, and I'm going to slide this down the top of the punch and slide this in to get that nice little uneven. Well, let's try again. There we go. Chevron to edge. Add some more adhesive. I'm going to bring in that tree. So I want it to hang off just a smidge or none at all. So what actually, for this one, I'm going to do none at all because I want my sentiment centered. Flip this over, give it a trim. Grab some dimensionals. Believe it or not, we are almost done with this card. I'm going to grab some dimensionals. Get these peeled off. Okay, and then we've got one more piece that I want to add. So I took some of the Melon Mambo 1/8 inch taffeta ribbon, tied it in a teeny tiny bow using the 10-second bow maker. Okay, just kiss that onto a glue dot. And then put this over onto the side, just like we had on our inspiration card. So let me go ahead and bring in our inspiration card and you'll see what I mean. So we have this here. We kept the background texture. I changed up the green rather than Old Olive. I changed it to Pear Pizzazz. Of course, we changed the rotation of the card. We kept the little bow. We kept the little banner. And we changed out the, the flowers and everything to a tree. And just like that, we have our Friday flip. So I hope you enjoyed this week's Friday flip. If you did, please be sure to like it below. Also be sure to share it with your friends. And head on over to iteachstamping.com. Make sure that you are signed up for my mailing list so you never miss any of the paper crafting tips that I share in there. It's completely free. You should totally do it. Again, I'm Meg from I Teach Stamping. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video tutorial. Have a great day.